My name's Dawn Williamson. I work with Smithfield. Smithfield Foods, as you may know, is a global company in pork production. We're the largest pork producer in the world, as well as packaging. We're a completely vertically integrated company. So everything that we do is tied up in our sustainability initiatives. At some point in time, historically, we've had all different divisions of our companies working on different sustainability efforts, and it started getting a little discombobulated, and we started losing track of what one person was doing versus another, or one department versus another. So we decided to bring everything together under one umbrella. It's called Smithfield Renewables, and today I'm going to be giving you a little overview of some of the main projects and processes that we're going through at Smithfield to improve our sustainability. First up is a video that I hope plays. I was told if it doesn't come up, do not press the button. Here we go. Someone's helping me. Uh-oh, we passed the video and went to my next slide. I'm a magnet for technical difficulties, guys. I'm telling you. Well, are we going to be able to have the video? It is not going to run. I really hate that. That video is really incredible, and it gives a really great overview of the things that our company's doing. But in lieu of that, I'll just keep talking. The video would have showed you a few things about the various ways that Smithfield has decided to implement a carbon reduction goal here in our U.S. operations. Basically, in 2016, the company sort of took our environmental compliance and our maybe early sustainability efforts. We decided to solidify a little bit, set some really specific goals, and try to start making a difference in our carbon footprint, all up and down our supply chain. So you're going to see and hear today from me about things all the way from grain farmers, all the way up through consumer packaging, and how consumers are using our products once they pick them up at the grocery store. So our goal in 2016 was set at a reduction of 25% of our overall emissions by 2025 in all of our U.S. operations. We used 2010 as our baseline, and you'll see that our focus encompasses everything from manure management through our grain supply chain, processing, as well as production efficiencies. If you don't know where you are, you don't know where you're going, right? Or you don't have a clear path to get to where you're going. So when we decided that we were going to make 25% reduction in our carbon footprint, we really needed to understand where in our processes we were having the most impact, maybe I should say the worst impact, because obviously those are the places that we're going to want to focus. We turned to the University of Minnesota. They had the North Star Initiative for Sustainable Enterprise. Basically what they did is took data and descriptions of our practices all up and down our supply chain, and they helped turn it into percent contributions to our overall carbon footprint. And what you see here is what we got back from them. The big four is what we call them. Grain farms and feed milling, you see, comprise 15 to 20% of our overall carbon footprint. Manure management, probably not a surprise, encompasses 40 to 45% of our overall carbon footprint. Our consumer use of our products after they pick it up at the grocery store, this one really surprised me, and this one creates a challenge for us that we're working on really hard today without a lot of results yet. We're still coming up with ways. And then other. This was a combination of things, including non-grain feed production. We do use feedstuffs from time to time that are not grain-based, coming straight out of the farmer's field, slaughtering, processing, and our transportation department. So we're going to start not from the left, but we're going to start with manure management, because that is our highest contributor to our overall footprint. So 40 to 45% of the carbon footprint is based in our manure management practices. The vast majority of that is methane emissions from our manure treatment systems. One of the ways, and probably one of the most successful and exciting ways right now, that we are combating this emission factor is by capturing and converting methane into renewable energy. This is not a new venture for us, or not a new idea, I would say. I've been in this business since 1987. And one of the things that I can tell you that I've always recognized as a person in production, as well as environmental compliance and sustainability, and my teammates, including Craig Westerbeek, who's the director of our renewables platform at Smithfield, one of the things that we have in common is we started low on the totem pole. When we're talking about hog manure, I've spent a lot of days covered in it. I've touched thousands and thousands, maybe millions, I don't know, thousands and thousands of pigs in my lifetime. I've managed millions of gallons of manure effluent, and I'm talking about hands-on, head in from time to time when there is a blocked pipe. So, these are processes that we know and we understand very well. And we've always understood that our manure is valuable from a nutrient standpoint and from an energy standpoint. And we have spent many decades, 2, 3, that seems like many to me. Maybe I'm not that old yet. But we've spent a lot of time talking about and trying different things. Infant-style lagoon covers, trying to capture methane. Figuring out, number one, can we capture it? And how do you figure that out? Well, you put a cover on, stick a pipe through, and then you flare it off. And if you've got fire, then you know, oh yeah, I'm getting it. So this is where we started from 20 years ago. Today, we've moved well beyond that. We did move through a phase of trying to produce electricity through gensets with this methane. That ended up not being the most effective and efficient use of that gas. What we've come upon today is that the most cost-effective way to address these emissions is converting that methane to renewable natural gas. Another way that we are transforming our manure carbon footprint is through sustainable fertilizer. You guys, where is Amy? There she is. Hi, Amy. Amy Yoder, Anuvia. We are actually partnered with Anuvia. Amy spoke to you, and I'm pretty sure I can't describe her product any better than she did. But you can understand from what she told you is that this fertilizer that Anuvia is producing is a very sustainable fertilizer compared to other commercially available fertilizers. The difference in the focus of Amy's talk earlier, she was talking about using food waste as a constituent and an additive in their product. I would say, I guess, that Smithfield is providing a different component of that fertilizer. Food waste, maybe a little extra process, right? So we are through Anuvia and their efforts, we are able to take the organic components of our swine manure and blend it with other products, other minerals, other nutrients to produce this really highly sustainable, commercially available fertilizer. So we're really excited about that partnership. It brings value to Smithfield. It brings value, we hope, to Anuvia. And we know that it will bring value to the farmers in the field to have a better product to use on their grain. So moving away from manure and into another part, I probably should have that bar sort of interspersed here so we can see. But if you remember back to that bar and what the University of Minnesota helped us understand, grain production is 15 to 20% of our carbon footprint. It might seem like a smaller number compared to manure, but it's still very significant to us. And as a matter of fact, when we first decided to start addressing the sustainability of our grain supply, we actually thought it was more like 25%. So, but we're still chasing, approximately the same amount of emissions. So, ironically, our grain production efforts began before our company made the 25 by 25 promise to ourselves and to the world that we were going to reduce our carbon emissions from our operations. We actually began a project in 2013, planning stages and talking stages, to implement fertilizer optimization practices on the farmland that the grain that we feed our hogs is grown on. That's a long way down the supply chain, right? We partnered with Environmental Defense Fund. They were working with us as a mentor, maybe a kick in the tail every once in a while. Every time we would say, yeah, we can't do that. We don't know how to do that. They would be like, oh, yeah, you're gonna. Okay, so maybe a little bit of a watchdog thing too, which is great. When you're embarking on these ventures to make big improvements and big impacts, you cannot sit back and say can't. There's no can't to it. It's how and when is what we have to do. So we set up a program called Smithfield Agronomics back in 2013, 2014. And we decided to commit to providing support to farmers in their fields to implement agronomic practices that would enhance their fertilizer use and reduce emissions in the fields or from the fields where our grain is grown. The challenge in that for us was we don't own that land. We calculated one day, sitting in an office with myself, Craig, EDF representative, that it took approximately 600,000 acres per year to grow the amount of corn that our company needs on an annual basis to feed our pigs. So this thing was corn-based. That was easy. That was an easy calculation for us to make. We could do that off the top of our heads. What we could not figure out is how are we going to reach the number of acres that we need to reach when we don't own them. Most of them don't even sit in our state. Our headquarters are in Warsaw, North Carolina, on the eastern seaboard. We are not grain rich there, I can tell you. So a lot of our corn, a lot of our grain comes from the Midwest, and it comes after being aggregated by companies like ADM, et cetera, gets on rails, and it comes to us. How are we ever going to trace and track where that corn came from so that we can go there and make improvements on the ground? Despite all of that, we sat around that day and tried to decide, how much impact do we want to have and how are we going to quantify it? We decided acreage was the easiest. So how many acres are we going to try to impact over the course of the next few years and say that we have a substantial goal in our grain production sustainability? We started out at about 20%, and for whatever reason, that ended up being 75%. Probably because we're very prideful. We're like, 20%? Nah, that sounds low. Let's go a little higher, so maybe 50. Finally, I think it was Westerbeek piped up and said, "Dadgummit, we're going to do 75%." So here we go. Set out in 2014 with a goal of impacting 450,000 acres of land that we don't own in sustainable fertilizer practices. And we were excited. We knew we could do it. I was actually one of the primaries on this project, and I was also the repository for the acreage numbers to report every year. We got to the end of the first year, and I think we had 20,000 acres. Now, we were expecting this linear move, you know, from 0 to, I don't know, maybe 80, 90, 100, and then up and up and up, yeah. So I put our numbers together that first year. We had 20,000 acres. I stayed in a cold sweat for weeks because I was thinking, at 20,000 acres a year, this is, man, what are we going to do? Well, we buckled down. We continued our collaboration with Environmental Defense Fund. We started thinking about the various ways outside the box. I hate that term, but really outside the box thinking about, where are we as a company impacting those sorts of things. Our collaboration with Anuvia, that's one place. That's providing an opportunity for enhanced fertilizer use. So basically, we continued on. We also provided free agronomic service to grain producers. We basically put out press releases and Facebook page and all sorts of things. Said, hey, if you're growing grain in our procurement areas and you want some free agronomic advice, call our agronomist. So we did that on the East Coast for a year or two. We started getting more traction. Then we moved to the Midwest, where we already in our hog production division have a set of agronomists who are working in nutrient management with our hog growers, who also in the Midwest happen to be some pretty significant grain growers. All of that continued to progress and move forward over the next 4 years, and our final result was this. In 2018, we met and exceeded our goal. We actually managed to engage 80% of our grain supply in more sustainable farm practices. So that was it's a big win for us. We're very proud of that. Sorry about that. I probably should have brought a cup of water up here. As I said before, we had this breakdown done for us by the University of Minnesota. You'll see here that we lump together other as some of these other things. These are not huge contributors to us, but, thank you so much. But we don't believe, I think I'll set this here. I'm afraid it's going to tip off there. But, we don't believe that there's ever a stone that should be unturned just because it's a little smaller. Every contribution that we make can make a difference. So contributions in our carbon footprint from other things such as non-grade feed production. Like I said, we do use feed products like recycled bakery goods. I call them coal cookies. The ugly cookies, the broken cookies. That they're a huge source of energy, and we do that. Brewers grains and things like that. Our slaughter facilities, obviously are going to impact our carbon footprint, our further processing, and our transportation. So in processing, I wanted to talk about that just a little bit. Really, processing is only about 10% of our total carbon footprint. But we're going to continue to be aggressive in these areas. We're implementing new practices with, my time is up. Give me one more minute. New practices, new boilers, new refrigerator systems, things like that are going to contribute, incrementally, but over time, and considering the number of plants and all we have, that's going to be a significant contribution. We have a new goal of certifying 75% of our U.S. facilities as zero waste to landfill by 2025. We're also involved in other renewable energy projects. I said that we cannot turn methane into electricity efficiently, and that's true. But that doesn't mean that we're not looking at other sources and other ways to do that. So in Colorado, we have 100% of our hog farms in Colorado are actually utilizing turbines to produce electricity. We're really excited about that. We're going to continue to look for ways in solar and wind to make more improvements in that. Our production efficiencies overlay across our entire carbon footprint. The impact of those improved production efficiencies can occur anywhere in our system, and they do make up a significant amount of improvement when you look at the opportunities that we have to generate the same amount or more product with fewer inputs. We've automatically lowered our carbon footprint. Our feed efficiencies are one of those things. Takes X number of pounds of feed to produce a pound of gain on a pig. If we can reduce that ratio, and we have from 2009 to 2018 by 5%, if you think about how many million pigs we feed per year, that starts to add up, and it provides a linear reduction in our manure. Less feed means less manure to deal with. Less feed means less grain we have to buy. So our feed conversion rates and other improvements are continuing at similar or improved rates today. We have sow productivity, improved lean carcass yield, and improved grain yields from our sustainability practices with the farmers, plus additional opportunities that we're looking at for further processing and how we can impact the consumer side of our business in food waste and food preparation, which you remember was about 20% of our carbon footprint. So all of those things we're going to continue to work on. I appreciate your time.